All right. Well, hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Upset Special, Week 10 edition. Uh, I believe the first time this season we are able to report more than I want to say more than two, but it might even be more than one victories from the group this week. So just to kind of recap our success story from last week, huge shout out to Dan Keegan because he pretty much carried the success, calling the Kansas Oklahoma upset. Also picked UMass over Army, which was pretty bold. Um, and then also we had who was our third one again? I am totally blanking now. Who else do we?
You hit on a
I hit Arizona for
Arizona.
Oregon State. Yeah, I was looking at everybody else's. I was like, someone else did it. I was like, oh, it was mine. I forgot. Um, but yeah, Arizona hit on Oregon State. Rice Tulane was very close. I was almost in on that one. Texas State Troy was a bit more of a blowout than we predicted. Texas State kind of was hanging around early. Your Utah Oregon pick did not go as planned, but Mark was also very close with Cal over USC. That was just one play away from also hitting, and the wheel went with Colorado UCLA. Not necessarily super close there because Shadur Sanders was on the ground more than he was standing in that game. So 3-5 overall. Barely missed out on Callan Rice as well. A pretty good showing overall from the gentleman last week. As we've said every week, we're going to keep trying to build off of that. 3-5 is a high number, but let's get to 500. I think that should be a realistic goal for us moving forward. With that being said, I'll go ahead start with my first one of the week. And I'm gonna go. Saw a big upset in the conference last week. I'm gonna stick with a team from the same state, pulling off yet another one. I think Kansas State has all that it takes to walk into Austin and take down Texas this weekend. They're getting about 4 points right now. I just think K State has improved so much from early in the season when they were losing to Mizzou and Oklahoma State. That quarterback duo, Will Howard, is just so experienced, so smart, and then you got Avery Johnson, who's such an incredible athlete. That duo has just been phenomenal as they've kind of developed throughout the year. That offense, DJ Giddens, is so strong on the ground yet again. Defense is a typical Chris Kleiman unit, really solid, reliable, not going to beat itself, really physical at the point of attack. They've got all the pieces. I'm still not sold on Malik Murphy being able to or at least to not be overwhelmed against such a smart unit that's really going to require him to beat them. They're not going to make any mistakes that are going to allow Texas to have some of these easy explosive plays we've seen in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I think Texas will be hard pressed. They'll like to lean on that ground game without having Ewers in there. Obviously, I think that'll be tough to do this weekend, and I think K State they every year seemingly pull off at least one or two upsets in the Big 12 that you don't expect. So I'll go Wildcats on the road, shaking up the Big 12 title race, kind of emerging into. I mean, yeah, if they win this weekend, I mean the best team in the Big 12 is up for grabs. I really don't know who you would pick for that. So I'll go Wildcats on the road. Your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, this is one of our pick'ems for the week, and I'm pretty sure I went with Kansas State too. I don't have it on my list just because I truly think like this is a coin flip. I'm not faulting you for the pick at all, but I truly think this is more of a coin flip game. And Texas is just getting the home field advantage, which rightfully so. But yeah, Kansas State is just Kansas Stating again, as they always do. Um, and I don't know, man. There's something because with Quinn out, especially, this is a really big one for Texas. Just trying to keep things floating until they can get him back and then hopefully make a run at the playoffs. But yeah, if they stumble here, I wouldn't say, oh man, what a huge loss for Texas. Like they should have had this. No, it's like Kansas State is such a good team, like you said. So I really, really like this pick from you.
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm interested
looking
to
at
see what.
mine.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
uh I think I'll go. All right, I'll go Houston +4 at Baylor. I have in my notes. I cannot let a world where Baylor is a favorite exist. Baylor is Houston like isn't the greatest, but Baylor is so bad, people. Baylor is so bad. Dave Aranda is gonna be, if he's not gonna be fired, it might just be a mutual parting of ways. And like, hey, it's fine. what he did at Baylor, at least to get them started there, was awesome. But now he can go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else and be awesome at that. Um, Houston again, exciting team. I've picked them. I picked them against Texas, so it's pretty close there. And Baylor is nowhere near the level of Texas. And the Baylor home crowd, and it's up and down sometimes. Yeah, I'll pick the Cougars here. Just a quick one. Again, just Baylor as a favorite, just but especially plus four. It's too much for me. Too much for my taste.
Yeah, and virtually every game that Baylor has seemingly played this year has been close and either involved some crazy comeback or Baylor getting upset by Texas State or just some notable weird result. So I could definitely see in a game that both teams are looking at and saying to salvage something of this season, we got to win this one. I think I could see it. Dana Holgerson's probably a little bit more desperate than Aranda is, and I think I just trust Houston's offense at least to have a little bit more potential in that one. So definitely a solid one. We're sticking to the Big 12 ad to start out. So we'll go elsewhere. George threw in one of his picks. He picked Middle Tennessee State to take down New Mexico State. Unfortunately, the Conference USA, obviously, Maction has taken over the middle of the week. So Conference USA is flexing out to the weekend now. But it'd be a pretty big upset for New Mexico State, probably the second best team in the Conference USA, favored by 3 points over a 2-6 MTSU team, but an MTSU team that took Missouri to the wire. I took Liberty to the wire. They've been in a couple close games against big teams. They've kind of just had the ball not bounce their way sometimes. Not a bad one against the Mexico State team. That I mean the record looks pretty right now, but it's not a team that's necessarily been flashy in doing so. So I could see the Blue Raiders walking in there and holding off New Mexico State's bowl bid for at least another week or so, as they kind of look to go. I'm two straight for New Mexico State. I wonder the last time, if ever. Actually, no, that hasn't happened ever because their first bowl game was like in 2016 or 17. So yeah, this will be the first time they've ever gone to back to back if they're able to pull that off. So yeah, George will lock in MTSU there. The wheel quit on me, so I'm going to quickly pull that up as well. But the wheel is going to have its own two picks this week. Last week it only got one, which was definitely the reason it didn't get anything right. So we will see what the wheel says this week. It is going to go with, oh man, the Charlotte 49ers. Who do they have? And they're at Tulsa. Wow, is Charlotte even the underdog in this? Because Tulsa just got 50 balled in the first half by SMU. So this might not. It's Tulsa -4, so I'll give it to you, Wheel, and that's not a horrible pick. I mean, it's a Tulsa team that, I mean, I don't know how you come back from what happened last week when SMU just literally eviscerated your defense. Like, I mean, it was Swiss cheese full of holes. Charlotte hasn't had much to redeem outside of their head coach throughout this season, but maybe, I mean, this is their best opportunity probably remaining to pull off at least one more win this season. So I like that pick from the wheel. Definitely a more moderate pick from the wheel. The wheel's generally the most bold out of all of us. That maybe it's dialing it back to probably try to pick up a couple wins here because it is still winless to this day. But it's had some close calls. With that being said, going to my second one as well. Going with a little bit bigger of a point spread here. But I've been a big disbeliever in Brent Fry at Virginia Tech since this all got started last year with him. But I'm buying in. I think Kyron Drones is really, it seems like the guy that they've been missing at quarterback for a couple of years now. The defense at Virginia Tech looks kind of a lot like Fry's units at Penn State, but B, just Virginia Tech units of years past. They seem to be getting back to that lunch pail mindset, which is really encouraging to see from them. Going on the road against a Louisville team that, yes, 7-1, 13 in the nation, I get it, but that Pitt loss I cannot get over. I think they benefited from getting Notre Dame at the end of a tough stretch for the Irish in winning that game, and they weren't against the Duke team with a less than 100% Riley Leonard. 23-0, yes, defensively you look great. That offense, if you can take away Jawar Jordan, Plummer's so streaky that even with great receivers like Jamari Thrash, I just don't trust in them. So Virginia Tech's getting 9.5 on the road. I like those points regardless, but I'm going to pick Virginia Tech outright to with a win here, they emerge into being one of the ACC title contenders and potentially playing Florida State, who they've already lost to. So throw a bit of chaos in the ACC, and we'll see what happens in Louisville on Saturday. But I'll go with the Hokies.
Yeah, the Virginia Tech, I kind of left them for dead this season. I wasn't too down with Brent Pry. I was looking at the situation, be like, man, this is a bad situation that he's in. But I understood like people were talking about being on the hot seat already after a poor start to the season, but they've turned it around, especially getting Grant Wells out of there his career. First season when he was a freshman, and then ever since then he's been an interception machine. Jones has been a lot better, mostly because he doesn't turn the ball over as much. Yeah, Virginia, they're enter Sandman turning it up. There's a pick I'm really confident in, but it's depending on an injury to a player.
Okay.
I'll go with another one. I'll go with another one just to be safe. I'm gonna take North Texas plus 6.5. They're going to UTSA. Frank Harris and the Roadrunners, they've like really turned it on as of late. They're looking more like the team that we thought they'd be. But Chandler Rogers and Jamar Macklin, that duo, the Mean Green, they're so good. They had Memphis. Again, Memphis just blew a lead, and they had Memphis, and then Seth Hennigan just clutched up in the final moments there. Yeah, this one doesn't feel like an almost touchdown difference to me. This feels like it's going to be a high scoring game, and then there's a lot of variability in that. And I just think that North Texas could come up with one last play here or there. They've been close a few times this season. I think this time they're going to get it done. And I just love the combination of Rogers and Macklin is such a fun small school combination to watch that the country should be seeing. It's just that they're on the like go find the highlights for that North Texas and Memphis game from last week. It's one of the best games of the year. Just it wasn't like the best well played game, but it's just one of those like, oh, these teams are going back and forth, massive comeback. It was really, really, really fun to see. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Mean Green, take it down the road.
Yeah, I like that one as well. North Texas, I to your point, been so close a couple times this season. Their record could almost easily be flipped. To be honest, I mean, yeah, and Rogers is phenomenal. Macklin's really coming to his own throughout the season. So UTSA has just been a team that, and they kind of, I liken them to almost Virginia Tech. Rough start to the season. They've rallied in conference play. And Frank Harris has been phenomenal per usual when he's healthy. But the UTSA defense is still not the greatest. So at the minimum, I think this gets into a shootout. And if that's the case, I mean, North Texas lost one last week. I think they're due a shootout win this week. So they're owed it. So I could definitely see them going in. George, with the transfer portal, also threw in Arizona over UCLA, which pretty fairly I don't want to say conservative pick, but a fairly easy one just to come by after Arizona coming off that Oregon State win at home. They welcome the Bruins now, who are fresh off a pretty solid win over Colorado in their own right. And it's a team that with Noah Fifita has just absolutely looked completely different. The benching of Jayden de Laura apparently is working out very well. You've got incredible receiver talent, Tetairoa McMillan and Jacob Cowing. And then you've also got, a stable of backs that are really solid. It's just so much speed and athleticism on the field for Arizona's offense, and their defense is night and day improved from last year. It's still not necessarily elite, but it's a solid unit that's respectable. UCLA, I mean, you've had the quarterback kind of rotation. It seems like Garbers has really been settled on. You got Schlee coming in for some running packages. I've wanted to see more from UCLA's running game this season. They've been good, but not great. I thought Carson Steele would really have taken control of that backfield by now. And I can agree with George. I don't know if UCLA is going to have enough to walk in Arizona Stadium and win on Saturday night under the lights. And because Arizona thrives in Pac-12 after dark conditions too. That's the other part that is worth mentioning. So we will see. But yeah, George locking in MTSU over NMSU. Say that 5 times fast. In Arizona over UCLA. The wheel might have picked a pick 'em. I'm going to quickly check it. but Kentucky, Mississippi State, I have to imagine is not more than 3 points either way. I mean, Kentucky 3.5. So the wheel's going to take Mississippi State. I'll give it to them. You got Kentucky team coming off tough loss to Tennessee last week, but Devin Leary finally kind of looked like the guy that people expected him to be, transferring over from NC State. And then you've obviously got Mississippi State team that post Mike Leach era under Zach Arnett hasn't necessarily gone to plan offensively. They just look completely out of sync in some games. They did pick up the 7-3 barn burner win over Arkansas a couple weeks ago, which, take that what you will. I guess their defense is solid. Their offense leaves much to be desired. But the end of the day, we'll see. Will Rogers' health is a big factor in this. Mike Wright's been starting in recent weeks and has not gone to how they would like it with Wright under center. Ray Davis is Mississippi State. Mississippi State is a great front seven. Are they able to limit Ray Davis? And can Leary stay hot? So it'll be interesting. The wheel will take Mississippi State plus 3.5 at home in the lights at Stark Vegas at night. So we will see. I'll go ahead and recap just the main picks, and then Josh, I'll let you go with your extras as well, and I'll throw out my extras as well too. But I went with Kansas State over Texas, and Virginia Tech over Louisville. We had the wheel with Charlotte over Tulsa and Mississippi State over Kentucky. George took MTSU over New Mexico State, and Arizona over UCLA. And then Josh took North Texas over UTSA. And what was your first one? Remind me as well, Josh.
We got Houston over Baylor, a basketball game.
I was going to say, and now a conference basketball game too, which is going to be like one of the better matchups of the season in college basketball is going to be that game, honestly.
Oh, the Big 12 of basketball, so much fun. But college football podcast, we'll stay focused.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and throw out my backup. I was just gonna two just immovable forces. Maryland post September, James Franklin post October-ish, post early October. Both are terrible. Which one's going to come out on top? Penn State -10. I think that's a big number going on the road against Maryland. Maryland has looked abysmal these past couple weeks, frankly, but they've at least been in games. They've just lost close ones. I think they can pick off Penn State here, to be honest. It was my backup pick. I'm not confident in it, but I think they could score just enough to take down a Penn State team that is just like, even with them still having Michigan down the road, they just feel like an afterthought at this point. Like nobody's talking about them. I feel like everybody finally kind of understood what Penn State is about last couple weeks ago. Unfortunate, but the Nittany Lions, they just got to get to that elite tier somehow, some way. And maybe it's with Franklin, maybe it isn't, but who knows? But yeah, I'll kick it to you, Josh, for your backup picks as well.
Yeah, real quick, I want to shout out last week, George. Also, not George. Sorry, Mark also did take Kansas over Oklahoma, but we made a ruling just to diversify some of the picks and stuff, just to add more. Because Dana already picked Kansas and Oklahoma, so give credit to Mark there. And just last week again, I suggested NC State over Clemson just because it was the CW game of the week. I also should have just picked it just because Clemson's bad, so I should have picked that one. Louisiana over South Alabama. Again, South Alabama was +10, and that just was way too much for me. And then Louisiana won outright, so that was awesome. UNLV over Fresno State. That one hurt real bad because that was also one of our pick'ems. And UNLV was close to a tie, but I mean, they also gave the game away. They had 2 turnovers in the second half. Wyoming over Boise State. That one was just bad on my part. I should have realized that Harrison Whaley's his injury, like he's been back from it, but he just still doesn't look right. Then I had Arizona State over Washington State, and I should have took that Desert Magic, but I didn't. And another thing I want to shout out in our chat, because we asked like, hey, anyone want to give their suggestions? Dan said twice. He said Missouri at Georgia. And so not an official pick, but just fun there from Dan. Right, we'll get to my other extras here. I had Rutgers plus 18.5 versus Ohio State, and I literally said, why not? You never know. Rutgers might just throw the kitchen sink out there. Probably will not be close, but maybe for like the first quarter, just because that's kind of how these games go. The one I was really wanting to go with, Temple plus 6.5 versus Navy. EJ Warner is back practicing after 2 weeks out with a concussion. So I'm assuming he's going to be good to go. And if he does play, I would honestly favor the Owls. He's that good of a player. I think he swings it. And Temple has just been awful without him. They've basically run like an option offense, just because out of necessity. But if he doesn't play, then it's a coin flip. This one, I was so ready to take it at the beginning of the season when I saw this. I had this one bookmarked, but it's not in the CW, and it looks like it's going to be warm up there in Pittsburgh. It's actually over the weekend, starting Friday through next Tuesday. It's supposed to be in the mid to high 50s to even low 60s. So Pittsburgh plus 21.5 versus Florida State. Still, I want to take a look at it because Florida State's kind of been playing with their food. But again, the weather doesn't seem to be too bad, so Florida State should be fine. BYU plus 10 at West Virginia. I just want to shout this one out because Kalani Sitake, the BYU head coach, he said he was excited to hear the West Virginia fans sing Country Roads. I don't think he realizes that they only sing that when they win. But hey, you never know. It's a fun environment. So maybe he's like, we'll let him have it. And they seem like even enough teams to me where plus 10 seems like way too much. So I don't know. Again, we pick straight up here, but if you want to sprinkle a little money on BYU plus 10, Bedlam. Bedlam is the phrase is always, oh, Bedlam is Bedlam, but the past few years it hasn't really been. But Oklahoma State, a time or two, they've gotten Oklahoma. And if there's ever a year, this would be the year. Ollie Gordon the second, he's a Heisman candidate all of a sudden because they figured out, hey, we should give him the ball a lot. So it'd be really fun to see. And hey, if you want to limit Oklahoma, limit possessions, keep score down, that's another way to pull off an upset. And finally, Jacksonville State plus 15.5 at South Carolina. Sure. To me, I said like this feels kind of like a trendy 5 versus 12 upset in the basketball tournament in March. I'm not going to say large ladness because I'm pretty sure that's copyrighted technically. So I'm not going to actually say the phrase. But yeah, this feels like one of those 5 versus 12 upsets where like the 5, like no one actually likes the 5. And like it's understandable why they're such a overdog or favorite, whatever the word is. And the 12 seed, they're pretty fun. Jacksonville State is really fun. Their offense is pure uncut option spread stuff. Not too many wrinkles added on that. But yeah, I feel like this is one where it's gonna be a lot closer than the game. Well, it's Gamecocks versus Gamecocks. The home Gamecocks crowd is not gonna like how close this game is, at least for the first half. So this is one I almost picked just because I was like, why not? But I felt more comfortable with my other ones. But this is one where it's probably my third place. Excluding the Temple versus Navy one, depending EJ Warner's health. But yeah, those are my extra picks. And again, I'll be happy to report next week or whenever I can get back that a lot of these picks hit and my actual picks did not, because that has been
that has been the trend at certain times. But yeah, the Jacksonville State one. I mean, with South Carolina, it's just if you can't pass protect at all, you can lose to any team in the country. It doesn't matter who they are. Jacksonville State's been a really solid defensive team for much of this season. They could get them. Also, shout out to Kalani Sitake for just being a college football fan in general. I love coaches that are just also fans of the game because I think that is great. So good stuff there. And yeah, with Bedlam, I think we're all just hoping for the last Bedlam we're probably going to see for 5-10 years. Who knows? Just a good game, something that delivers kind of the classic Bedlam moments that you want. An Oklahoma State win would be nice to balance out the rivalry a little bit more because it hasn't been much of a rivalry. As of late, I believe OSU's won 3 matchups since 2010, something like that. So it's not the best. It's looking like, well, not as bad as Tennessee, Alabama levels, but it's getting there. So, but yeah, we'll see. So some good picks in this week. It's a big weekend. I am surprised. Yeah, that I was wondering if either of us or someone else would take Mizzou, Georgia. It looks like I figured Dan, the homer that he is, would certainly do that. So that makes sense. Bedlam's another fun one, but yeah, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave your upset picks for the week down below. Chastise us for our terrible, or support us for our amazing picks of the week, what have you. Spend your life savings on our picks. Do the opposite. It's up to you. It's a free world. Josh says no. Well, Josh says go all in on his backup picks, not his main picks. If you're playing the game correctly. So, but yeah, that'll that'll wrap it up for another another week of upset special. We'll be back again next week. Should be out the same day as we progress through the season that is absolutely flying by at an unprecedented rate. And the fact that we are already in double-digit weeks is insanity. But for Josh and Parker, signing off for another episode of the Upset Special.